think they practiced. Can on ouvre les portes, let the doors be open. Alors, statements by members, déclaration de député, l'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers deserve MPs who are devoted uniquely to the interests of Quebec. And Quebecers clearly cannot count on the Liberal Party to represent their interests. Quebec has never been weaker in this government, and we see it once again with this budget. Quebec wants Ottawa to work against tax havens, but no mention of it in the budget. Quebec wants its fair share of shipyards contracts, but nothing in the budget. Quebec wants the privilege status granted to Netflix to end, but Ottawa says it'll last at least 5 years. Quebec wants electric transportation. Ottawa does nothing. While the government accepts stratospheric deficits, the government chooses not to increase health transfers. They do not serve Quebecers' interests, and yet they deserve elected representatives who will stand up for them. And if the government won't, then we will stand up for them, Mr. Speaker.
Last week, students at Regency Acres Public School attended a fabulous conference focused on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. From learning how to code with JavaScript, to using microscopes to explore DNA structures, to designing inventive prototypes and programming robots, grades 4 to 8 students participated in a full-day workshop to imagine and discover the wondrous possibilities of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Students also heard from Natalie Panek from MDA's Robotics and Automotion Division, who is working on Canadian space robotics programs and the current Mars rover, a strong example of a Canadian woman who is leading in engineering and inspiring the next generation of female game changers. Many thanks to Ms. Morrison-Klaus, who organized the STEAM conference, and thanks to all who participated for supporting our youth as they engage in innovation and discovery to position Canada for success in the future.
The honourable member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday was Budget Day, and the Finance Minister could call his new budget the Britney Spears budget. Oops, I did it again. Once again, he's tabled a huge deficit. Once again, he broke the Liberals' key election promise on deficits. In this budget, the minister is flip-flopping haplessly as he tries to fumble his way out of the mess he created last summer with his attack on small businesses. There's nothing in this budget to get energy resources to market, nothing to stem the flight of capital from Canada, nothing that will bring back lost energy jobs in Calgary, nothing that will restore investor confidence in Canada, just $18 billion more dollars stolen from our children's futures. Between the broken promises, his attack on small business, his continuing ethical scandals, and his refusal to answer the basic question of when the budget will be balanced, which is a material question about a key election promise, it's time for a new finance minister before this one can hit us one more time.
Honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, as Black History Month comes to a close, I rise in this place to speak of the memory of Alfred M. Lafferty. In 1856, Mr. Lafferty was accepted at Trinity College, University of Toronto, and in 1872 was appointed headmaster of the Guelph High School, now the GCVI, becoming the first public school headmaster of Black descent in Ontario. A decade before, Guelph was the final stop for Blacks fleeing slavery in the South using the Underground Railroad. Mr. Lafferty's appointment in 1872 was at a time when the United States was looking at military reconstruction in the American South to attempt to force reconciliation. But peaceful progress proved far more effective and enduring thanks to trailblazers like Alfred Lafferty. We must embrace our diversity to complete the unfinished work left behind by Mr. Lafferty and other leaders in the movement to achieve true equality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Mr. Speaker, frontline organizations do so much for our communities that it's hard to imagine how we would manage without them. In Elliott Lake, a women's shelter, Maplegate House for Women, is a pillar for the most vulnerable in the region and has ambitious plans to do even more.
An emergency shelter for abused women and their children, Maplegate is adding a transitional house for women and a new men's shelter to the community. On top of that, they actively engage people in the area so that everyone has the opportunity to help their neighbors in need. That was the case last weekend when volunteers, sponsors, and organizers hosted a coldest night of the year walk for homelessness. Billed as family-oriented and fun, the Elliott Lake event raised $24,000 to help Maplegate serve the most vulnerable in our society. I encourage all members to join me in thanking organizations like Maplegate who make our communities more compassionate and caring places to live.
Excellent.
Thank you.
The honourable member for Yukon.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to rise today and speak on how this government, as in the previous two budgets, is continuing to help Northerners thrive. Yes. Budget 2018 will provide $20 million per year and ongoing to the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, better known as CanNor, to continue its important economic development programming. Making CanNor permanent is a huge step forward, as for years the program has been temporary, with no indication until the tabling of the budget that it would be renewed. $3 million over 5 years is also being allocated to CanNor out of $511 million allocated across the regional development agencies to support the Innovation and Skills Plan. $1 million of this is earmarked specifically in support of women entrepreneurs in the North. We're also excited that the Mineral Exploration Tax Credit has been extended for another year. This is so instrumental to the North's mining industry. Thank you to the Minister of Finance for another great budget for the North.
Honourable member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday's Liberal budget wasn't good news for Saskatchewan families, farmers, and business owners. Where was support for our grain farmers who right now are unable to get their grain to market because of issues with the railways? Where was the support for small businesses who are facing uncertain tax changes while at the same time losing competitiveness in the North American market? Where was support for our families whose children will be forced to pay down an additional $18 billion that the Liberals are adding to the deficit with no plan to return to balanced budget? Yesterday's Liberal budget left Saskatchewan behind, while today my province is losing $62 million in federal funding for refusing to be bullied into joining the Liberal carbon tax scheme. Saskatchewan deserves better. Canadians deserve better than this Liberal government.
Député d'Ottawa-Vanier.
The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier.
October 28th marks International Rare Disease Day. While individually these diseases may be rare, collectively they represent over 7,000 different diseases. That sobering statistic is complicated by the fact that they have some common issues. Medical professionals lack familiarity, diagnostic times are much longer, if diagnosed at all, and many have no treatments or cures.
Fortunately, there is hope. Through the Health Research Institutes of Canada, Canada has invested $142 million over the last 5 years to support research in Canada and abroad in order to improve the understanding of these diseases and devise treatments.
Of all persons affected and their caregivers, especially like my constituent, Mrs. Joanne Paquette, who suffers from Olier's disease, which affects 1 in 100,000 people. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I would urge all MPs and parliamentarians to applaud the courage and determination of these people.
Honourable député de Miramichi-Grand Lake.
The honourable member for Miramichi.
Government remains committed to helping seniors live happy, healthy and independent lives. Budget 2018 proposes to provide $75 million in 2018-19 through the Public Health Agency of Canada to support the Healthy Senior Project in New Brunswick. Our government's commitment to engaging with communities throughout the Atlantic to develop policies and proposals that serves the interest of Atlantic Canadians remains a key focus. The Healthy Senior Project will support a range of research initiatives to examine how governments can better support seniors in their homes, communities and care facilities. Mr. Speaker, projects such as this will help our government better understand how care for seniors is delivered across Canada. This innovative approach demonstrates the importance of collaboration with our various partners and the incredible value of continuing to share learning and best practices for the benefits of all Canadian seniors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, in December, the Prime Minister decided to force a values test for organizations applying for Canada's summer jobs funding. There are thousands of organizations that will not be receiving funding this year because of their faith. But the losses to Canadians are not about these organizations. It's about the students who serve in soup kitchens, work at street centres, are camp counselors in government projects like the one I grew up in, and providing health services to seniors that the government does not provide. It's about the thousands of at-risk Canadians that they serve. It's about feeding the homeless through places like the Toronto City Mission, supporting mental health in shelters, ensuring underprivileged children have access to summer camps, and seniors below the poverty line are receiving necessary health services. Mr. Speaker, when the Liberal values test wins, marginalized Canadians lose.
Honourable member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, today the Canadian Armed Forces legal branch celebrates its 100th anniversary and a century of loyal service to Canada.
Today, there are approximately 250 lawyers in the Office of the Judge Advocate General from the regular forces and the reserve, and they work all over Canada and all over the world. These legal services have directly contributed to the success of military operations in Canada and abroad, as well as helping to maintain armed Canadian forces that are disciplined and highly professional, working in compliance with the rule of law.
Or let justice prevail. Over the course of 100 years, the women and men of the legal branch have proudly embraced this motto with the dedication, perseverance, and professionalism that define the Canadian Forces. I wish them the very best as we celebrate this important milestone with them, and I ask all members of this House to join me in thanking them for their outstanding efforts in the service of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hull Aylmer.
And what a month it has been. From the Member of Parliament for Whitby's passionate #ICU movement to the Prime Minister's historic recognition of the existence of anti-black racism, from Canada's adoption of the UN Decade for People of African Descent to the hundreds of Black History Month events held in communities across our great country. Bravo. This has been an outstanding Black History Month.
Bravo. But, Mr. Speaker, the cherry on the sundae was yesterday. $23 million for Heritage Canada to fight racism in all its forms. Millions more, 19 million, to increase support for local Black communities in Canada to help with developing mental health programs that better respond to the culture of Black Canadians.
Equality may be long, Mr. Speaker, but in 2018, it just got...
Honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the left paint Canada's Indigenous people with a broad brush, implying all oppose responsible natural resources development. That's wrong, and it limits their futures and all of Canada. The Liberals' exclusion of First Nations who disagree with them rob them of billions in opportunities, social benefits, and jobs. The Liberals' veto of the 31 Indigenous equity partnerships for Northern Gateway and their unilateral drilling and tanker bans hurt Indigenous communities. The Liberals ignore pro-natural resources Indigenous voices. Nunavut and Northwest Territories premiers say the drilling ban is a step backwards, took away hope, forces Northern Indigenous people, quote, to just live on handouts. The Liberals' delay of the Pacific Northwest LNG blocked 13 Indigenous equity partners from becoming among the wealthiest in Canada. The tanker ban will kill the Indigenous-owned Eagle Spirit pipeline with 35 Indigenous equity partners and approval of all the chiefs on the route from Bruderheim to Grassy Point. I urge Liberals to withdraw the tanker ban and actually listen to the majority of Canada's Indigenous people.
Honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, the New Horizons for Seniors program works with local organizations to support seniors to volunteer, to participate, and to raise our awareness of seniors' issues. The Squamish Men's Shed is one of these organizations. They've created a communal space to help with isolation for men by bringing them together in a safe workshop with high-quality tools. What could be better than that? Last week, I met Ernie, David, Dennis, and Mike over coffee. Everything they make is for the community, from cutouts of birds and fish for children, to a bat condo for the Watershed Society, to a library book box, and for the Hospice Society, a blackboard for a Before I Die bucket list. These men are having fun. They love getting together 7 days a week. Yes, you have to be 55 and male to join, and yes, everyone is welcome to wear the T-shirt and support the men of the Squamish Men's Shed in service to one another and the community.
Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I was disappointed yesterday with a budget that failed to promise action. Just studies on pharmacare. The NDP has long called for a national pharmacare strategy, and I have been calling for much-needed coverage of prescription contraceptives. I was pleased that at our NDP convention, delegates voted for a policy of action, that the NDP recommend the immediate creation of a health subsidy to the provinces for free access to menstrual products and contraception for all citizens. Sadly, the Liberals have missed an opportunity here. Next week, Canada will recognize International Women's Day, and instead of paying lip service to policies like pay equity and pharmacare, wouldn't it be great to see real action? Let's start with access to free prescription contraceptives and menstrual products, remove barriers, and improve reproductive health options for all Canadians. The time to do this is now. All we need is political will.
Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud and honored to rise in the House today to support Pink Shirt Day and to take a stand against bullying. Hear, hear. Bullying is a very real struggle in the lives of so many of our children. It is more than getting pushed around and called names on the playground. Cyberbullying is also a growing problem for today's Canadian children, and it exposes them to unrelenting abusive behavior online. By wearing a pink shirt, parents, friends, and parliamentarians can show that we will support those who are bullied and know that they are not alone. As the Shadow Minister for Families, Children and Social Development, I urge you to post on your social media feeds the hashtag #PinkItForward or hashtag #PinkShirtPromise to support Pink Shirt Day. Help end bullying and vow to help spread kindness. Thank you.
The very audaciously attired honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My friends and many of you have commented that I have really bad taste in clothing. And today of all days, Pink Shirt Day, and me without a pink shirt. Many of you also assume that I'm colorblind. And in fact, that is true. I am colorblind. But most people, fortunately, are not. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, two teenagers in Cambridge, Nova Scotia, David Shepard and Travis Price, talked 850 fellow students into wearing pink shirts to school. It was a wonderful, compassionate response to a ninth grader, Charles McNeil, a new student at school, who had been bullied for wearing a pink shirt. They started a movement that is now celebrated around the world, a movement to stop bullying by celebrating diversity and promoting positive social relationships. It's a movement about creating community where all people feel safe, valued, and respected, helping people feel good about who they are. How wonderfully Canadian. From Nova Scotia, Canada to the world, modeling compassion and caring. And in full support, Mr. Speaker, I'm wearing this wonderful, wonderful blue or pink or gray colored suit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, in 1986, I was one of the first officers on the scene of the shooting of an Indian minister Sidhu. I helped him and his wife into the ambulance. It's a day I will never forget. Jaspal Atwell was convicted of attempted murder in that shooting. The victims of terrorism, they have names, they have faces, and they have families. To the Prime Minister, why would he ever meet with Jaspal Atwell?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for his question, and I thank him for his service, as I do to all men and women who serve in uniform to keep our communities and our country safe. As I've said a number of times, the invitation never should have been extended to this individual, and as soon as we found out about it, we rescinded that invitation. The MP responsible for it has apologized, and we will continue to work to stand against violent extremism and terrorism wherever it rears its head around the world.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister said in this House that the conspiracy theory regarding Jaspal Atwell put forth to the media was true. Now, the Indian government is saying the opposite. Either this government isn't telling the truth, or who is telling the truth? The Prime Minister. I will continue to defend and believe in our public service, our professional, non-partisan public service. We will always defend the integrity of our officials who do extraordinary work. Contrary to the previous government, we respect the non-partisan nature of the public service, especially when it comes to our national security agencies. We specifically respect their capacity to provide impartial advice to government. We know that all action that they undertake is in the best interest of Canadians.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, baseless and unacceptable. That is how the Indian government described the Prime Minister's bizarre theory that a convicted terrorist's presence on the trip was somehow the fault of agents working on behalf of the Indian government. Now, the Prime Minister's incompetence has severely damaged Canada's relations with the world's largest democracy and an emerging power in Asia. Will the Prime Minister finally do the right thing and produce some kind of proof of his conspiracy theory?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it seems these Harper Conservatives never learn. For 10 years, they spent their time disrespecting public servants, using them for partisan gains, and making sure that their political partisan aims were always front and center in everything they did. We respect the independence, the professionalism, the nonpartisan nature of our professional public servants. We will always listen to them, follow their advice, and defend the integrity of our Canadian public service.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There has never been a government, Liberal or Conservative, who has used a national security official to clean up an embarrassing mess that was self-inflicted by this Prime Minister. I've got a quote I'd like to read to the Prime Minister by a senior correspondent who has followed these issues for years. Quote, in 10 years of Harper, I never saw a bureaucrat sent out to clean up a mess made by a politician, but it just happened with this Prime Minister. Why is the Prime Minister using independent officials to clean up his mess?
Right. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the allegations and insinuations made by the members opposite are based in their own experience of torquing our professional public.
Order. Having trouble hearing the answers, I would encourage members to show respect for this place. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the Conservatives opposite torqued our public service every chance it could get for partisan advantage. So I can understand they think everyone behaves that way. Well, we don't, Mr. Speaker. every day, whether it's in this case or in their everyday work. All the nonpartisan security agencies do an exceptional job in the service of Canada's national interest, and Canadians can be reassured that beyond the partisan nature of this House, our professional public servants are...
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There is nothing partisan about this. It was the Prime Minister's trip that turned into a disaster. It was the Prime Minister's office who mishandled the invitation that went out to a convicted attempted murder. And then for the first time in history, they decided to use an independent public service as a human shield for his terrible news cycle. If the Prime Minister is so sure about what he's saying, will he confirm that no one in the Prime Minister's office or anyone in the public service under his control organized the briefing that was provided for the media laying out this allegation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, governments organize media briefings all the time. It's only the Conservatives opposite who consistently for 10 years torqued the public service to their own partisan ends that sees anything nefarious in it. Unlike the previous government, we respect in particular the ability of the public service to provide nonpartisan advice and support to the government. All Canadians can be assured that the only interest on which our security agencies focus is the interest of Canadians.
Député Rimouski-Negetem.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Negetem-Isquataré-Basque. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expected to see real action by the part of the government, and once again the budget has left them wanting. The government keeps repeating that the economy is going well. Most Canadians who we've spoken to aren't benefiting, and they're not able to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, this budget is timid and will not help the population. There are urgent needs. The urgent needs are now, but most of the funds won't be freed up until after the next election. When will this government decide to stop simply making promises and to take some real action? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, with Budget 2018, we are taking the next steps towards improving equality, competitiveness, sustainability, and equity in Canada. Our budget plan will enable us to continue to invest in strengthening and growing the middle class. It establishes solid bases for the future of our children by bridging the gap between payment for men and women, dealing with parental leave, and putting forth a new entrepreneurship strategy for women. We are also making important steps towards equality. This is a budget Canadians can be very proud of. The Honourable Member.
After the next election, let's talk about Medicare for pharmacare for a minute. This government is making a big deal about setting up an advisory council. But this morning, the finance minister said that his government will only be moving towards a means-tested pharmacare. To quote him, we're dealing with the people who don't have it. We at the NDP believe that everyone should have access to affordable medication. Mr. Speaker, the time for universal pharmacare is now. Why is the Prime Minister even bothering with another long consultation when his Finance Minister already spilled the beans on the outcome?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every year almost 1 million Canadians give up food and heat to afford the medicine they need. The high cost of prescription medication means that sometimes sick Canadians must do without. As part of Budget 2018, we're creating an advisory council on the implementation of national pharmacare, which will recommend options on how best to move forward together on this important issue to ensure every Canadian has access to the medicine they need. This builds on significant actions over the last 2 years to make prescription drugs more affordable and accessible.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, in the aftermath of the Prime Minister Butch's trip to India, he has actually managed to make things worse by going out and blaming so-called factions in the Indian government for the invitation extended to Jaspal Atwal. A claim that was swiftly denounced by India's Foreign Affairs Ministry as baseless and unacceptable. Is the Prime Minister trying to create an international diplomatic crisis?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we have full confidence in the work that our national security agencies and professionals do, and we support them in their professional, nonpartisan work. We will continue to respect and support the work that our intelligence agencies do, because that's what Canadians expect of their government. That's what Canadians expect of all of us.
Député de Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, now it's clear that the Prime Minister accomplished very little during his 8-day trip to India with a dozen MPs, all of that at taxpayers' expense. He could have raised important questions for Canadians, but no, in fact, all he succeeded in doing was creating tension with an important country, a very important country in the region. Is that how the Prime Minister wants to bring Canada back on the international scene? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge that the growing economy in India represents important opportunities for strengthening the middle class in Canada. We've had $1 billion in investments between companies in the two countries. This will lead to the creation of 5,800 quality jobs for Canadians. Investments will promote growth of the Canadian economy, will encourage innovation and entrepreneurship, and also increase cooperation.
Chef de l'opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister said that the national security comments put forth to the media were true, that there was a conspiracy by the Indian government and in fact at the same time there was a comment by a Liberal member, and he's been punished for what he did. How can both of these versions be true, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, contrary to the members opposite, we will always defend the integrity and excellent work done by our officials, our security officials. Contrary to the previous government, we will always listen to them and respect them. We respect their capacity and ability to provide impartial advice to the government, and we know that all action that they take is in the best interest of Canada. All Canadians should be very proud of the work, the nonpartisan work done by our security agencies on a daily basis.
Mr. Speaker, there's just one problem. Yesterday, the Prime Minister confirmed that the theory put forward by one of his national security advisors was true. He has also said that it was the member for Surrey Centre acting alone that was the result of this embarrassing incident. So how can the Prime Minister at the same time blame rogue elements in the Indian government and the member for Surrey Centre?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, like most Canadians, on this side of the House, we respect and appreciate the work done by our professional public services, and particularly in regards to our national security agencies and information agencies. We believe them when they put forward their information and their recommendations to us. At the same time, the member for Surrey has taken responsibility for his role in the invitation extended to this individual and has apologized.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, is the Prime Minister actually saying that the member for Surrey Centre has taken sole responsibility for a scheme concocted by the Indian government? Is that the assertion that we're led to believe? Now, how can they both be true? If on the one hand it's the government of India that has implicated itself into Canadian government affairs, that is a profound allegation that has serious consequences that can't be thrown about lightly just to get through a 24-hour news cycle. Why is the Prime Minister so irresponsible about this very important bilateral issue?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we support and accept the Council, the recommendations, the extraordinary work and advice done by our national security agencies and information agencies. We support our professional public service and accept the information and recommendations they give to us. At the same time, like I've said, the member for Surrey Centre has taken responsibility for having extended the invitation to this individual and has apologized.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, nobody believes that there wasn't a single person in the Prime Minister's office that was not provided a list of invitees. Nobody believes his ridiculous assertion that the responsibility lies with rogue elements or factions in the Indian government. Now, by having an independent national security official brief the media anonymously right in the middle of a negative 24-hour news cycle, the Prime Minister has implicated the independent public service in his disastrous trip. Will the Prime Minister confirm or deny that anyone in his office orchestrated the briefing to shift blame on this?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to have to explain this to the member's office that he did not learn this through 10 years of government, and we saw that regularly in their behaviour in the Harper years. Professional public servants, particularly those in the national security and information areas, do extraordinary work based on their professional qualifications, based on their analyses. And when they make recommendations or when they make statements to Canadians or to this government, we on this side of the House choose to believe them. On that side of the House, who knows?
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We need new lines. So, big time. The Prime Minister would have us believe that an independent national security officer took it upon himself to brief the media right in the middle of a terrible news cycle that was embarrassing the Prime Minister. If that isn't the definition of politicizing national security officials, then I don't know what is. Nobody is believing it. The Prime Minister needs to learn that there are serious consequences to these types of allegations, that governing is more than just Instagram posts, that when you make this kind of allegation, there are consequences. Will the Prime Minister identify who in his office orchestrated this media briefing?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Perhaps it would be helpful to folks here if the member opposite actually were to state whether or not he believes that the professional public servant who functions in a nonpartisan way was not telling the truth, was not clear on what he was saying. This is the issue that the member opposite seems to be going at, that he doesn't believe our professional public servants in what they tell to Canadians. If that is the case, then the member opposite should say so.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister identify who it was who briefed the media? Will the Prime Minister identify, so that we can have confidence in what was said, who in his office orchestrated the media briefing? Will the Prime Minister provide a modicum of proof for these assertions that it was the Indian government that was behind his embarrassing fiasco? I doubt that he will, Mr. Speaker. You know, last year he met with someone who was the vice president of a listed terrorist organization. In December, he met with Joshua Boyle, who days later was charged with sexual assault and unlawful confinement. Why is it always that this Prime Minister seems to be identified with these kinds of people?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the member opposite is not being clear. He has not come forward to say whether or not he actually believes it.
Order. Order. We'll need some order so we can hear both the questions and the answers. I think a little respect for the House means we're going to hear both sides, and each side has a chance to respond in due course. And each side should have confidence, I think, in the ability of Canadians to judge the quality of both the questions and the answers. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, if the members opposite do not trust or believe our national security agencies, they should simply come forward and say it. On this side of the House, we have faith in our professional public servants, particularly in the intelligence and security areas, who do extraordinary work every day to keep Canadians safe, and the members opposite should stop disrespecting them.
That's right. The honourable member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
The Liberals say they're a feminist government, but won't put their money where their mouth is. This was evident in yesterday's budget. Pay equity was promised by the Liberals over 40 years ago and again in 2016. But now, Liberals put no money for pay equity in yesterday's budget, making women wait yet again. Immediate funding is needed now to bridge the funding gap for women in Canada. So how much longer will this government make women wait to have equal pay for work of equal value?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, we've taken many different actions to help address the wage gap and support women's labour market participation, including $7 billion to address early learning and childcare needs, increasing parental and maternity benefits, implementing flexible work arrangements for federally regulated employees, and yesterday we announced that we will introduce pay equity legislation as part of the Budget Implementation Act. We know there is much more work to do, but we intend to get it done.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals keep repeating that their government is a feminist one, but they're better at symbolic rhetoric than they are tangible action. The budget proposes a legislative framework for pay equity, but there's no funding earmarked for it. Zero. Nothing. What women's groups have been long calling for is a universal child care regime, affordable housing, shelters for women who are victims of violence. But that takes money, Mr. Speaker, to put all of that in place. When will the government translate this rhetoric into tangible action? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Translating our words into action is what we've been doing for 2 years, Mr. Speaker. We've invested $7 billion in early childhood education and child care. We have put forth $40 billion for a national housing strategy. 25% will be directly dedicated to women and families. We've increased parental leave, maternity leave. We put in place flexible workplace arrangements for federally regulated sectors, and there are many more examples. We have invested in emergency housing for women facing difficulties, and we will continue to invest. The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. On one hand, we have a Liberal member who apologizes for having invited a terrorist to the Prime Minister's activities in India, and on the other side, the Prime Minister insinuates that the Indian government is attempting to sabotage his trip by inviting a terrorist along. Now, we can well imagine that the Indian government would have reacted strongly to these types of insinuations and the insinuations made by his advisor. If the Prime Minister hasn't got anything to hide, then he needs to table the proof in this House. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As I've said often, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in and have confidence in our security agencies. We have already answered all of those questions, and we all understand that the opposition prefers to talk about anything except Budget 2018, which has so many good initiatives in it for the middle class and those working hard to join it. One of those initiatives is the Canadian benefit for workers, which we are enhancing, bringing it up to help over 300,000 more workers in need. We are going to continue focusing on the best support that we can provide to Canadians. The honourable member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Well, Mr. Speaker, we are going to be looking after the Prime Minister here because what he's doing is causing a diplomatic disaster. His primary security advisor implied that the Indian government was attempting to sabotage the trip because he wasn't happy with because the Prime Minister wasn't happy with the media coverage. These accusations are very serious. The Indian government has denied all of those accusations. They called them unacceptable, baseless. So if the Prime Minister doesn't have anything to hide, then he needs to provide us with the proof of these accusations. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we have already answered this question. As the government focuses on me, we are going to continue to focus on Canadians. We want to support women. We know that the opposition voted against the creation of a Status of Women department. We're going to take greater steps, and we are going to continue to use gender-based analysis and equality as our prism. We are making the department a full-fledged department. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, we've got this show that keeps playing out. 11 times the questions have been asked, and, well, the Prime Minister of Canada yesterday confirmed in this House that the Indian government was complicit in inviting Jaspal Atwal. Now, the member for Surrey was singled out. They said he's responsible. Now, if the government if the Prime Minister wants to confirm what he said yesterday, he needs to provide us with the proof here in this House. Mr. Speaker, I've already answered these questions, but what the opposition doesn't understand is that they should all be focusing on Canadians. That's what we're doing on our side. When Canadians said that we needed to do more to help Canadians, seasonal workers, we announced the immediate granting of $10 billion or $200 million for the next 2 years through workplace development programs. We listen to the seasonal workers in this country, and we are delivering the goods for them. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, Mr. Speaker, what the Canadians are seeing is that the Prime Minister isn't taking these matters seriously. Now, the National Security Advisor was, in fact, said that he, in fact, had said that the Indian government was complicit. Now, the Indian government has said no. We need to have a clear answer here from the Prime Minister. We have already answered to this question. We are focusing now on ensuring that we have a better future for all Canadians in the workforce. In 2018, there is a wage gap that exists that is unacceptable. We have made an announcement to take proactive steps by putting in place legislation to deal with this. We are going to be injecting some $150 billion into the national economy between now and 2026, and that shows that it's not just the right thing to do, it's the most judicious approach.
Mr. Burnaby.
The budget delivered yesterday literally leaves Canadians out in the cold, and we see the homeless crisis every day in British Columbia. Tens of thousands of Canadians are sleeping out in the parks and main streets of our country, and this Prime Minister says, wait until the next election. Wait for a few more years. Wait until Liberals are good and ready to put adequate funds into housing. Homeless Canadians have waited 2.5 years, while this government is focused on loopholes for the super rich. Why doesn't he take action? Why do the homeless always finish behind the super rich for this Prime Minister?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, we've made significant investments in helping the most vulnerable in our country. We've brought forward a Canada Child Benefit that's lifting hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty and reducing child poverty by 40%. In this budget, we're moving forward with the Canada Workers Benefit that's going to lift tens of thousands of low-income workers out of poverty. On top of that, we're moving forward with a national housing strategy, $40 billion overall, that is going to go at homelessness, that is going to help affordable housing and help with housing affordability.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday's budget is a monumental step towards building an equal, competitive, sustainable and fair Canada where all Canadians can thrive.
My apologies, we'll come back. The member for New Westminster, Burnaby, has one more question. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister should know that the homeless cannot wait for years and years and years until the Liberals get around to funding housing in this country. And it's the same with pharmacare, Mr. Speaker. Liberals tried a big build-up around the budget for what turned out to be yet another Liberal study. For 21 years, all they do is study. So if he wants to steal NDP ideas, steal them. Put them into practice. Don't just stare at them. It's weird. After 21 years, the evidence is clear. Why does the Prime Minister continue to refuse to implement pharmacare now in Canada?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's disappointing to hear the member opposite disparage the national housing strategy because in addition to housing investment from Budget 2016, it represents a 12-year commitment to housing. 30% of that 12-year investment will be spent in the first 4 years of our mandate. Investment then increases gradually over time because, unlike previous governments, we believe the community housing sector should grow, not sink. That's why we're moving forward on things that matter to Canadians in concrete, tangible ways and delivering on all our promises.
Honourable member for Niagara Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday's budget was a monumental step towards building an equal, competitive, sustainable, and fair Canada where all Canadians can thrive. It was an immense step toward specific chapter dedicated to Indigenous peoples in the budget. However, Mr. Speaker, on the path of reconciliation, the Métis Nation have long been forgotten by Canadian governments. May I ask that the Right Honourable Prime Minister please update this House as to our government's commitment to reconciliation and inclusion of the Métis Nation in Canada's growth and prosperity.
Prime Minister.
Speaker, I want to first thank the member from Niagara Centre for his question. Reflecting commitments in the Canada Métis Nation Accord, Budget 2018 proposes to invest $516 million over 10 years for housing, post-secondary education and health strategies. President Chartrand of the Manitoba Métis Federation said, "Since Confederation, the Métis Nation has been left out in the cold. With this announcement, we can begin to see the change. We have brought the Métis Nation back into Canada. These investments in Métis Nation priorities will support their vision of self-determination."
The honourable member for Carleton.
When it was revealed that the Prime Minister had brought a convicted terrorist along on his trip, he claimed that it was a backbench MP who had arranged it. Now he claims that it was the Indian government that did it through a conspiracy. Is he alleging that his own backbench MP is part of a conspiracy orchestrated by the Indian government?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've already answered that question. However, I understand that the opposition wants to keep this line of questioning because they prefer talking about anything other than Budget 2018, which includes so many positive initiatives for the middle class and those working hard to join it. One of these is the Canada Workers Benefit, which we are not only strengthening, but we are also making accessible to an additional 300,000 low-income workers. The opposition will stay focused on us, but we will continue to focus on Canadians.
Order. 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 As I said earlier, members don't have confidence in the public to make decisions and assessments about things that are said in this place and the questions and the answers and the quality thereof. Members ought to understand that the Speaker is not empowered to comment on any of those things. Members should listen. The honourable member for Carleton.
The Prime Minister wants to talk about the budget. So in what year will it be balanced?
Hey. Mr. Speaker, in the last elections, Canadians were given a choice between investment and austerity. Canadians chose investment, and it worked. Over the last 2 years, the Canadian government, the Canadian economy has created more than 500,000 jobs. Canada has the best debt-to-GDP ratio of all G7 countries, the highest growth of any of the G7 countries, and we have the lowest unemployment in 40 years. As is usually the case, Mr. Speaker, Canadians were right in their choice.
Member for Carleton.
As is usual, the Prime Minister was wrong in the choice he presented them. He said the deficit this year would be $6 billion. Instead, it's $18 billion, 3 times bigger. He said next year the budget would be balanced. Now we learn that it won't be for another quarter century, during which time he will add, or some future government will add, $500 billion in debt, presuming there is no more spending. So once again, when will the budget be balanced?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, under the Harper Conservatives, they added $150 billion to our national debt and had no growth to show for it. The worst growth rates since the Great Depression under Stephen Harper. We chose investment. Canadians chose investment in them, in their communities, in their futures, and it is delivering with the highest growth rate in the G7, the best record on job creation in a long time, over 500,000 jobs created in the past 2 years, and the lowest unemployment in 40 years. Canadians made the right choice, not their choice.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, there's no question the Prime Minister has inherited great fortune. A strong world economy, doubling of oil prices on our American customers south of the border, driving up demand, and this government is blowing every penny of it. The deficit is 3 times what they promised. The deficit will continue for a quarter century and amount to almost $500 billion in new debt. So I ask for a third time, maybe this time he can answer it. In what year will the budget be balanced?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we presented a plan for investment instead of the austerity plan they were presenting, Canadians supported us because they knew we would invest while maintaining fiscal discipline. We have the lowest debt-to-GDP ratio in the G7, better than the U.S., better than the U.K., better than Germany, and it's decreasing every single year. That is fiscal responsibility, while at the same time we're investing in Canadians, in their communities, in the future that Canadians need. That is the choice Canadians made 2 years ago, and that is what's delivering for Canadians.
The honourable member for North Island Powell. Is there one more? Honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, 2 months into their mandate, this government got a Treasury Board memo warning of significant risks with the Phoenix pay system. Obviously, they didn't pay attention. In my riding, too many employees are among the many in the Phoenix ashes. One is still waiting for $40,000 in severance pay. Mr. Speaker, 2 years. Our workers don't deserve this financial and emotional stress. They deserve to get paid for work done. It's simple, Mr. Speaker. When will this government pay its workers?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, an ongoing situation is unacceptable. People doing work for the federal government or for anyone deserve to get paid. We didn't create this mess, Mr. Speaker, but we are going to fix it. We're committed to doing whatever it takes to fix it. In Budget 2018, we announced an investment of over $430 million over 6 years to continue addressing existing pay challenges. We'll increase the number of employees working on pay issues and hire more HR advisors within departments to assist employees with payroll issues. We have a plan to stabilize the pay system that we will continue executing while working with experts, unions.
The honourable member for Jonquière. We hope that it won't take 10 years before they go through with this. It's been 2 years since the Liberal government decided to go ahead with the Phoenix pay system, even though they were aware of the extent of the problems to come. The Liberals ignored the concerns raised by the Treasury Board and senior officials, as well as the situation in Australia, which was nonetheless well documented. This bad decision by the government and its bad management made for thousands of victims pointlessly. Will the government compensate employees affected for all the harm inflicted upon them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are determined to act to rectify the situation. We have invested $430 million over 6 years to resolve current payroll issues. We've increased the number of employees who are working on resolving payroll problems, and we've recruited a greater number of compensation advisors. We have a plan to stabilize the system, and we are going to work with experts, unions, and technology providers in order to create a new payroll system.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister keeps contradicting himself, yet Canadians deserve a sincere response from him. Yesterday, he fired the MP from Surrey Centre as the BC caucus chair, and today he said that person was personally responsible for inviting Mr. Atwal. Yesterday, he also said that he supports his national security advisor's contention that the Indian government are responsible for the Atwal scandal, Mr. Speaker. Both of those two things can't be true, Mr. Prime Minister. Which one is true?
First, of course, I have to remind the honourable member for Durham to direct his comments to the chair. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've already answered those questions. What the opposition doesn't understand is that they should be focusing on Canadians. That's what Liberal MPs did when they told us we needed to help workers in seasonal industries. We listened, and we're delivering. For those working in seasonal industries, we announced $10 million in immediate income support and over $200 million over the next 2 years through federal provincial labour market development agreements. This is what we can accomplish when we focus on the middle class and people working hard to join it.
For Durham.
Mr. Speaker, it disrespects Canadians for the Prime Minister to not even answer questions on the India trip. So I'll ask for a specific aspect of that trip. On February 22nd, the National Security Advisor and his counterpart in India signed a cooperation agreement on countering violent extremism. The next day, the Prime Minister's office forced that advisor to blame the Indian government for Canadian extremism, Mr. Speaker. So my question on the trip, how is that cooperation agreement with India going?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's troubling to see how much the members opposite do not trust or believe in the professionality and the nonpartisan nature of our public service. Our professional public servants, particularly in the security and information areas, work very hard to keep Canadians safe, and to see members opposite trying to score cheap political points by politicizing them is really disappointing. Mr. Speaker, we take the responsibility of working with partners around the world very seriously to keep Canadians safe, and that's what we will continue to do.
Honourable member for Durham.
The Prime Minister is sullying the reputation of one of those fine public servants, and I'll use an example from 2010 when CSIS suggested foreign agents were at play in Canada. The MP for Ajax, now the Parliamentary Secretary for Public Safety, said at the time it was wrong for a cloud to be hanging over the head of an entire community at that time, Mr. Speaker. Well, now the Prime Minister's actions and those of his office are hanging a cloud over one of the biggest countries in the world and our friends in India, Mr. Speaker. So will the Prime Minister finally table one shred of truth to this crazy India conspiracy theory?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, Canada and India have a long tradition of bilateral relations built on the traditions of democracy, pluralism, and strong people-to-people ties. Indo-Canadians, including those of the Sikh faith, have made immense contributions to Canada. We believe that the freedom of speech and expression are at the core of democracy, both at home in Canada and around the world. These rights are universal, and we will work and collaborate with people all around the world to advance those rights. On this side of the House, we take that very seriously.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Achieving gender equality is the smart thing to do to grow the Canadian economy. Over the last 40 years, the higher participation of women in the labour market contributed about 1/3 of Canada's economic growth. However, there are still obstacles preventing women from fulfilling their full potential. This government has committed to putting gender-based decision-making at the heart of the process. Can the Prime Minister tell the House how Budget 2018 will ensure that more women access the opportunities they deserve? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I would like to thank the member for Shefford for his question. We cannot grow the middle class without ensuring the full involvement of women in the labour market. We've announced a subsidy for women when it comes to apprenticeships. This subsidy will provide a maximum amount of $6,000 over 2 years for those who choose a Red Seal trade. With measures like this one, we will continue to move things forward to help women and to grow our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we know it, here are the facts. Daniel Jean, on his own, called together the members of the press gallery traveling with the Prime Minister in India to tell them that it was factions within the Indian government that was sabotaging the Prime Minister's trip. The Prime Minister has told us that he believes Daniel Jean. We've heard today that the India High Commissioner has communicated publicly that the Indian government refutes this and also says that these accusations are baseless and not accountable, are not appropriate accusations. Mr. Speaker, the question is this. It seems that the ball is in Canada's court. What is Canada's diplomatic response to this?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud to stand and defend the integrity of our public servants who accomplish incredible work. Canadians rejected the Conservatives' approach of disrespecting and bashing the hardworking men and women of our nonpartisan public service. And since the member opposite has used the name of Daniel Jean, I will think it's important to remind them all that Daniel is a distinguished public servant who has served governments, regardless of their political stripe, for over 35 years. In fact, I'd remind the member opposite that the previous Conservative government so valued Mr. Jean's service that they chose him to represent Canada when he addressed the UN General Assembly.
Honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
No, excuse me.
I'm so sorry. I did it too.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. The day after the Liberal budget, Quebec is left wanting more. While expectations were high, Quebec was left with nothing but crumbs. No details on Phase 2 of infrastructure projects such as the Blue Line in Montreal, and nothing on Davie Shipyard in Quebec, and above all, nothing about taxing web giants like Netflix. They're doing nothing. Despite a strong citizens' movement, there was nothing about fighting tax evasion and tax havens, which are robbing billions from us. What good do the Liberal MPs from Quebec serve if they can't deliver the goods for Quebecers and for Quebec's men and women? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, on the contrary, with the investments we've made in the Canada Child Benefit, in subsidies for workers, with our natural housing strategy, we are delivering in Quebec and throughout the country. When it comes to tax evasion, we invested $1 billion over the first few years of our mandate, as well as 1,000 audits being conducted. There are several criminal investigations being done regarding transactions abroad. We have been able to levy $44 million in sanctions against those found guilty of tax evasion. Yesterday, we announced more than $90 million over 5 years.
Valley East.
Mr. Speaker, the new EI parental sharing benefit represents a major step forward in helping parents balance work and parental responsibilities as they welcome new children into their families. Could the Prime Minister explain how this greater choice and flexibility in parental and maternity benefits will help parents provide their children with the best possible start in life?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Don Valley East for her question. Too often, working mothers pull double duty, working a full-time job during the day and then going home and doing the bulk of parenting duties at night. Moving away from this second shift will take time, and it begins by helping parents share the work of raising their children more equally through the new parental sharing benefit. Greater gender equality is the smart thing to do for the economy and the right thing to do for Canadians.
Honourable member. Order. The Honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we woke up today to headlines from around Canada. The Prime Minister stands by officials who suggested Indian factions sabotage trip. The Prime Minister doesn't refute conspiracy theory that Indian government factions sabotaged his trip. And in response, India has said that the assertion is baseless and unacceptable. The Prime Minister leads a G7 nation. This is a diplomatic matter. What will he say to the High Commissioner to Canada from India in response to their missive?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, The Conservatives seem to think it's a problem that the headline is, Prime Minister stands by his officials. This is something that we need to understand on this side of the House. Our government will always stand by the professional public servants who work hard, regardless of the government's stripe of the day, to serve Canadians, to keep Canadians safe, and to give us the information and the understanding of the world that we need to have. We will always stand by our nonpartisan professional public service. It's a shame that they don't.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing in the budget for the 800 workers laid off from Davie. However, it's not out of a concern for austerity with a government running an $18 billion deficit. It is a political choice. The government can act. It can even decide to deprive itself of revenue by protecting the tax havens of the wealthy and by exempting web giants from tax collection. Why is the Prime Minister defending tax havens instead of Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Davie Shipyard, we recognize the quality of the work that workers from Davie have done. And we are currently negotiating for new icebreakers for the Canada Coast Guard. When it comes to web giants, we are not going to increase taxes for taxpayers despite what the opposition is asking for. We will continue to make sure that we continue to help Quebecers and Canadians from the middle class because that is what we agreed to do. That was the promise we made to Canadians during the election.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Mr. Michael Creed, Minister of Agriculture, Food and the Marine of Ireland.
I believe that the honourable member of Mégantic-D'Érable is rising on a point of order. It's my duty, Mr. Speaker, to talk about something that happened yesterday when the budget was tabled yesterday by the Finance Minister. The House of Commons is not a place where the Finance Minister has the permission to decide on who has or does not have the right to speak in this House. We heard the Finance Minister's presentation. Afterwards, we were very surprised to learn that all seats, even those for the opposition, were reserved by the Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, we both were able to see that there were a lot of available seats in the gallery yesterday. So I asked that people come and watch the budget, but the Finance Minister refused this person access to the gallery. My